The checkout lanes are going dark forever, not because of temporary closures or seasonal shutdowns, but because the companies that operated them have run out of money, run out of options, and run out of time. Across America, 10 major grocery chains that once anchored communities and employed hundreds of thousands of workers have filed for bankruptcy, taking with them not just jobs and shopping options, but the infrastructure that held entire neighborhoods together. These weren't small corner stores struggling to compete with Walmart. These were regional powerhouses and national brands with hundreds of locations, sophisticated supply chains, and customer bases built over decades of community service. Their collapse represents more than business failure. It signals fundamental changes in how Americans shop for food and what they expect from grocery retailers. The bankruptcy filings reveal a pattern of companies caught between rising operational costs and declining customer loyalty, unable to adapt to changing shopping habits while servicing debt loads accumulated during better times. Each filing represents thousands of workers losing employment, communities losing essential services, and families losing convenient access to affordable groceries. What makes these failures particularly striking is their concentration in recent years. The grocery industry was once considered recession-proof, providing essential services that communities couldn't do without. But changing consumer behavior, online shopping growth, and economic pressure on working families have revealed that no retail category is immune to disruption when the underlying economics shift dramatically. Let's begin with the chain that once defined American grocery shopping for millions of families. A&P was more than a grocery store. It was an American institution. The Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company operated for 156 years, surviving the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and countless economic downturns before finally succumbing to bankruptcy in 2015. At its peak, A&P operated over 15,000 stores and employed more than 300,000 workers, making it one of the largest employers in the country. The company's decline was gradual but relentless. A&P struggled to modernize its stores, while competitors like Walmart and regional chains offered better prices and more convenient shopping experiences. The supermarket format that A&P helped pioneer became a liability as customers demanded larger stores, with more selection and better amenities. When A&P filed for bankruptcy, it owed more than $2.3 billion to creditors while operating stores that generated insufficient revenue to cover basic operational costs. The company had attempted multiple restructuring efforts, closing thousands of underperforming locations and selling profitable stores to competitors. But the debt burden accumulated over decades of declining performance proved insurmountable. For communities served by A&P, the closures created food deserts in areas where the chain had been the primary grocery option. Many A&P stores were located in urban neighborhoods and older suburbs where residents relied on walking or public transportation to reach grocery stores. The bankruptcy eliminated shopping options for families who couldn't easily travel to distant alternatives. Workers who had spent careers with A&P lost not just jobs, but pensions and healthcare benefits as the bankruptcy process liquidated company assets. Many employees had worked for the company for 20 or 30 years, building expertise in grocery operations and customer service that became worthless when the stores closed permanently. A&P. Our bankruptcy demonstrated that longevity and brand recognition couldn't overcome fundamental business model problems when customer preferences shifted faster than companies could adapt. Pathmark represented the suburban grocery store ideal, with large format stores that provided one-stop shopping for families who drove 2 weekly grocery trips. The chain operated primarily in the Northeast, serving densely populated areas, with stores designed for customers who valued selection and convenience over rock-bottom prices. The company's bankruptcy in 2015 resulted from a combination of high real estate costs, intense competition, and changing shopping patterns that favored either discount retailers or premium grocery experiences. Pathmark occupied an uncomfortable middle ground, unable to compete on price with Walmart or on experience with upscale chains like Whole Foods. Pathmark's debt load included expensive long-term leases for large-format stores in high-rent markets. As customer traffic declined, the fixed costs of operating big stores in expensive locations became unsustainable. The company owed approximately $1.4 billion when it filed for bankruptcy, with much of that debt tied to real estate commitments that couldn't be renegotiated. The bankruptcy affected approximately 10,000 workers across more than 70 stores. Many employees had worked for Pathmark for decades, developing expertise in specialty departments like bakery, deli, and pharmacy services. The sudden closure eliminated not just employment but career paths that many workers had expected to sustain them through retirement. Communities losing Pathmark stores faced reduced competition in grocery markets, often leading to higher prices at remaining stores. The large format stores that Pathmark operated weren't easily replaced by smaller competitors, creating gaps in grocery infrastructure that affected entire suburban areas. The Pathmark failure highlighted the challenges facing traditional supermarket operators in markets where real estate costs consumed increasing percentages of revenue while customer loyalty decreased consistently. Winn-Dixie built its identity around serving southern communities with stores that felt locally owned while providing the selection and pricing advantages of a major chain. For decades, Winn-Dixie was a dominant grocery retailer across Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and other southeastern states, operating stores that served as community gathering places and employment centers. The company filed for bankruptcy twice, first in 2005 and again in 2018, as it struggled to compete with Walmart, Publix, and other chains that offered better prices or superior shopping experiences. Winn-Dixie's attempts to differentiate itself through store brands and local positioning couldn't overcome fundamental cost structure problems. The 2005 bankruptcy allowed Winn-Dixie to close underperforming stores and renegotiate supplier contracts, emerging from bankruptcy as a smaller but supposedly more efficient operation. However, the underlying competitive pressures that drove the initial bankruptcy continued to intensify, making the company's recovery temporary rather than sustainable. By 2018, Winn-Dixie operated approximately 500 stores, but generated insufficient profit to service its debt while investing in store improvements needed to remain competitive. The company owed more than $800 million to creditors, with much of that debt resulting from failed attempts to modernize stores and improve operational efficiency. The bankruptcy affected thousands of workers, many of whom lived in small southern communities where Winn-Dixie was one of the largest employers. The company had been particularly important in rural areas where few alternative employment opportunities existed for workers without college education. For customers, Winn-Dixie's decline meant reduced grocery competition in markets where the chain had been a primary alternative to Walmart. Many stores were located in food desert areas where residents relied on Winn-Dixie for affordable groceries within walking distance or short driving distances. The Winn-Dixie bankruptcy demonstrated how regional grocery chains could lose their competitive advantages when national retailers brought superior pricing and operational efficiency to previously protected markets. Bilo attempted to create a southeastern grocery empire through aggressive acquisitions, purchasing chains like Harvey's, Reed's, and Bruno's to build market share across multiple states. The strategy seemed logical: combine regional chains to achieve economies of scale while maintaining local market knowledge and customer relationships. The reality proved different. Integration challenges, debt service costs, and operational complexity from managing multiple store formats and supply chains created problems that overwhelmed any scale advantages. Bilo filed for bankruptcy in 2018, owing more than $1.2 billion to creditors while operating stores that couldn't generate sufficient cash flow to sustain operations. The acquisition strategy that drove Bilo's growth required substantial borrowing at a time when grocery industry profit margins were already under pressure from Walmart and other discount retailers. The company couldn't achieve the operational efficiencies needed to service acquisition debt while also investing in store improvements required to remain competitive. When Bilo filed for bankruptcy, it operated approximately 200 stores across South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. The bankruptcy process resulted in store sales to competitors and liquidation of locations that couldn't attract buyers, eliminating thousands of jobs and reducing grocery options in already underserved markets. Many Bilo stores were located in smaller cities and rural areas where the chain served as the primary grocery option for residents without reliable transportation to distant alternatives. The bankruptcy created food access problems for elderly residents, low-income families, and others who depended on nearby grocery stores. Workers affected by the Bilo bankruptcy faced particular challenges because many stores were located in areas with limited alternative employment opportunities. Grocery store jobs had provided stable income and health benefits for workers who often lacked the education or training needed for other available positions. The Bilo failure demonstrated the risks of growth through acquisition strategies in industries where operational excellence and cost control determined success more than market share or geographic coverage. Marsh supermarkets operated in Indiana for more than a century, building customer loyalty through community involvement and personalized service that larger chains couldn't match. The company specialized in serving smaller cities and suburban areas where residents valued customer service and local ownership over rock-bottom prices. Despite its strong community connections, Marsh filed for bankruptcy in 2017, owing approximately $400 million to creditors, while operating stores that generated insufficient revenue to cover operational costs and debt service. The bankruptcy resulted from competitive pressure from Walmart, and other chains that offered lower prices on identical products. Marsh's business model depended on customers willing to pay slightly higher prices for superior service and community connection. That model became unsustainable when economic pressure forced families to prioritize cost savings over service, quality, and convenience. Considerations. The bankruptcy affected approximately 9,000 workers across more than 60 stores. Many employees had worked for Marsh for decades, building relationships with customers and developing expertise in specialty departments. The sudden closure eliminated not just jobs, but institutional knowledge about customer preferences and community needs. Communities losing Marsh stores often experienced reduced grocery competition, leading to higher prices at remaining stores. Marsh had provided price competition that kept other retailers honest, and its absence allowed remaining chains to reduce promotional activity and increase profit margins. For older residents and others who valued personal service, Marsh closures eliminated shopping experiences that couldn't be replicated at larger, more impersonal competitors. The bankruptcy represented the loss of a business model that prioritized customer relationships over operational efficiency. The Marsh failure illustrated how traditional grocery store values, like community service and personal attention, lost importance when customers faced economic pressure that made cost savings the primary shopping consideration. SuperValue operated as both a grocery retailer and a wholesale distributor, running stores under multiple banners while supplying independent grocers across the country. The company's dual role created complexity that became unmanageable when both retail and wholesale segments faced simultaneous pressure from changing market conditions. As a retailer, SuperValue operated chains like Cub Foods, Shop, N, Save, and Horn, competing directly with Walmart and other discount retailers while trying to maintain profit margins sufficient to support its wholesale operations. As a distributor, the company faced pressure from independent grocers who demanded lower wholesale prices while their own retail sales declined. The company filed for bankruptcy in 2018, owing more than $900 million to creditors while operating a business model that generated insufficient profits to service, debt, and invest in necessary improvements. The bankruptcy allowed SuperValue to focus on wholesale distribution while selling or closing retail operations that had become unprofitable. The retail closures affected thousands of workers and eliminated grocery options in communities where SuperValue stores had been primary shopping destinations. Many locations were in smaller cities or older urban neighborhoods where residents relied on nearby grocery stores for daily shopping needs. The wholesale distribution challenges affected hundreds of independent grocery stores that relied on SuperValue for competitive purchasing power. The bankruptcy disrupted supply relationships that many independent grocers had maintained for decades, forcing them to find alternative suppliers or consider selling to larger chains. For communities, the SuperValue bankruptcy represented the loss of locally focused grocery stores that understood regional preferences and supported local suppliers. The company's stores often carried products from local producers and adapted their offerings to community tastes in ways that national chains couldn't match. The SuperValue failure demonstrated how companies trying to serve multiple roles in changing industries could find themselves unable to excel at any of their functions when market conditions shifted rapidly. These grocery chain bankruptcies reflect broader changes in American retail and consumer behavior that have made traditional supermarket operations increasingly difficult to sustain profitably. The rise of Walmart, the growth of online grocery shopping, and changing family shopping patterns have eliminated many of the competitive advantages that regional grocery chains once enjoyed. The closures have created food access problems in communities that depended on these chains for affordable, convenient grocery shopping. Many bankruptcy-affected areas have become food deserts where residents must travel significant distances to reach full-service grocery stores, creating particular hardships for elderly residents, low-income families, and others without reliable transportation. Workers displaced by grocery bankruptcies face challenges beyond immediate job loss. Many had built careers in an industry that provided stable employment with benefits and advancement opportunities for workers without college education. The elimination of these positions removes economic foundations that supported working-class families and communities. The concentration of grocery retailing among fewer, larger companies has reduced competition in many markets, leading to higher prices and reduced service quality for customers. The bankruptcy of regional chains eliminates local ownership and community connection that many customers valued beyond pure pricing considerations. For the broader economy, grocery chain bankruptcies represent the elimination of businesses that served as economic anchors in their communities. These companies provided not just retail services, but employment, tax, revenue, and business relationships that supported entire commercial ecosystems. The pattern of grocery bankruptcies suggests that traditional supermarket operations may be unsustainable in many markets without fundamental changes in business models, cost structures, or customer value propositions. The industry consolidation that results from these failures may provide efficiency benefits, but eliminates competition and choice that previously benefited consumers. The human cost extends beyond immediate job losses to include the elimination of career paths, community institutions, and local economic infrastructure that took decades to develop. The replacement of regional grocery chains with national retailers changes the character of communities in ways that extend far beyond shopping convenience. As the grocery industry continues evolving, the bankruptcy of these established chains serves as a reminder that no business model is permanent when customer needs and competitive landscapes change faster than companies can adapt.